All right, our Hangout is live, it says. So hello, everyone who is watching the live stream, my very second live stream ever. Today we have Amanda Presto back. We had such a good time last time, and she can't get enough of me, so she's got to come back, and we're going to do another live stream today talking about feminism. We're going to have Erin Bandler come on later on to talk about primaries, and maybe we'll even discuss the Republican debate tonight, because I'm pretty excited to watch that. Okay, so just a couple little housekeeping things. Please leave comments at WarriorWoman91, because I'm not really sure if I got the chat working, and I don't really feel like reading the chat anyway, so please just send them directly to at WarriorWoman91. That would be awesome. All right, so without further ado, we're going to have Amanda talk about feminism, tell us what it is. As I was talking to her earlier, usually people, when they hear the words feminism, they think, the word feminism, they think, oh, you know, that sounds like women's rights. And I'm totally for that, right? It sounds good. It sounds nice, right? Yeah. So tell us exactly what feminism is. I think it's called third wave feminism now. And why is it actually bad for society?
Yeah. Okay, so that is a loaded question if I ever heard one. But so feminism, by definition, is advocating for equality, for equal rights for women. Third wave feminism kind of came about, I want to say in the 90s. Oh, geez, I forget her name. But she just started coining the phrase, third wave feminism. So it kind of took, and that's how it took off. Basically, they had, I mean, as we all know, there's nothing institutionalized. There are no laws in the book that discriminate against women in the United States. Sure, you can argue aspects of sexist action, what have you, that can be brought to court. That's fine. Kind of the same thing when you look at race. Okay, again, there's no institutionalized racism. There's no institutionalized sexism. Same thing. So we have this movement where they're trying to find relevance, basically, within the United States. So instead of I don't know, maybe looking at Saudi Arabia or trying to like work where there are obviously deficiencies between women's rights in other places, they just focus on the United States and they become victims. So feminism is just, it's victimhood, but more importantly, it's just leftist ideology. That's all it is. That's all it is. Here's a key indicator of that. We have the largest women's organization in colleges, I forget what it's called, the NSA maybe. Or something union, but they're backing the BDS movement, so they're boycotting Israel. So if you think of the Middle East and you think of female rights, Israel is going to be the pinnacle, right? So that's their westernized. They have so they're actively against Israel because it's leftism. Okay, so you look at that, they're just leftist ideology. They just promote victimhood. There's a lot of male hatred in it for sure. Yeah. And again, it's just leftist ideology. So they'll peddle things that will victimize, like the gender pay gap, like we've talked about. That's incorrect. That's not true. They'll perpetuate this and exaggerate this rape culture. That's not true. And again, it's just full-blown leftist ideology. Their main platform is abortion. Okay, so when your platform is killing children, you should probably look into it a little bit. So that's any kind of leftist position that they stake out. The most left position, it's probably the most harmful position for women, and they actively take it. There's nothing in this movement that is positive. There's nothing at all. It's a man-hating, leftist, ideological push that a lot of young girls are taking to, unfortunately, because they're not looking into it, or they're just, taking it as fact. Like we kind of talked about this beforehand. Jennifer Aniston said that the pay gap's real, so you believe it. So you're a victim. There's nothing empowering about it. Nothing at all. It's just victimhood and leftism in a nutshell.
Basically, yes.
Basically, yeah.
So,
and one other thing, it's also extremely contradictory. So, for instance, they don't know what they stand for whatsoever. Feminists do not know what they stand for. They'll have so Rush Boobs was the thing where they had frats were being promoted by girls who would literally take pictures of their chest, and then one boob would say Rush and the other would say, State of Pi or whatever. So they would have the fraternity there, and they would take pictures and promote it. And you're like, okay, probably feminists don't like that, right? Okay, so they come out against it. A week later, they have the Free the Nipple campaign where boobs are supposed to be the same as a man's, and they just have no shirts on, they just have their boobs out, and that's empowering. So it's empowering, the Free the Nipple campaign is empowering, Rush boobs is degrading. You tell me if that makes sense. I mean, it's absurd.
Yeah, it almost sounds like the slut walk that Milo covered.
Yeah. I remember that too, yeah.
They're like, oh, there's rape culture on campus, but I'm going to walk around shirtless and wonder why people are staring at me. I can't figure this out. Why are people looking at me? What's going on? I mean, honestly.
Oh, yeah. They say, yeah, they have that, because they don't have, there's nothing cohesive about it whatsoever. Nothing. Yeah. They have no, I don't know if it's a lack of leadership in the movement. It's just, I mean, they have nothing to fight for. That's why it's so chaotic. That's why. I mean, they're creating problems. They're trying to be victimized, and they're peddling leftism. So all this.
Yeah, it's really kind of disgusting, actually.
Yeah,
so
it really is.
Do feminists actually have a case? I think you kind of touched on this, that they really contradict themselves a lot. But where does this idea that they are oppressed comes from? Who came up with this? Because
well, I think. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, obviously, there have been instances of, sexual harassment and whatever. Look at Bill Clinton. But in the workplace, I've only seen, as I know this is anecdotal, but the guys that I went to high school with all are making minimum wage, and I'm not. And all the other girls in our high school class are making above minimum wage, and all the guys are making minimum wage. So obviously that's anecdotal, but I've not seen any kind of male oppression in my field, I should say. So where does this idea that women are oppressed come from? I mean, I'm speaking obviously of Western women, because they don't care about Middle Eastern women.
Right. Well, I mean, I would definitely say there's some kind of like reactionary thing happening where we have, so like the Meninist movement. Have you seen that? Men who are against feminists. So there's some things to be sympathetic there, but overall, it's a pretty gross thing. They actively they degrade women. It's reactionary though. So if anything, feminists caused this Meninist thing, this male feminist thing, and that's it's pretty degrading. It's pretty gross. So if there is, and there is this aspect where women are used. I mean, in the Black culture, this is big, right? These women are just kind of, it's cool to have 6 different baby mamas. That to me is disgusting, to have women be used. That's true sexism to me. So I think a lot of this, so just overall in our culture, we'll have women being used and kind of, again, we can see a drop in marriage. Men aren't committing, women aren't committing. But I think this is sort of caused by feminism. Like I said, right? So slut walks, that they promote promiscuity, and then when the reaction comes where men don't commit, which is harmful for women, it's kind of a reactionary thing to this feminism. So there is kind of this thing. I mean, I've seen it. Men don't want to commit. Why would they? They don't have to. So we kind of have this thing where women are used. But it's a reaction to feminism. It's a reaction to what they push out there. What is cool, what they promote. They have so much power within female magazines. They have so much influence, and they use it terribly. Like Cosmopolitan literally had porn stars showing girls how to, take 2 blanks at once. Like, I'm sorry, I don't see the empowerment. And literally their platform is female empowerment. So it's a little confusing. So when you promote promiscuity, they never talk about commitment. They never talk about marriage. Never. They don't touch that, right? Because you can always just get an abortion. They don't talk about the repercussions of promiscuity. They just promote it. And so we do have a lot of young girls who are being used, and because they follow this pathway that promiscuity and lack of commitment is a good thing, right? It's empowering. It's empowering to get spit on in sex. Literally, that was one of the things they pushed. It's unbelievable. So if there is a case for it, I would say it's a reactionary case of this push by women.
So, I really love Milo's line where he says, Western women are the most entitled and protected class of people that have ever lived. I really have a hard time with feminists that talk about how we're so oppressed here in the United States. It's just insanity. And then they turn a blind eye to these women that are being killed and raped and all the rest of it over in the Middle East because, one of them showed their face, so how dare they? Or they can't sit in the front seat of a car and they can't drive a car. They have to sit in the back and they have to have their faces covered. I mean, of all the things, but that would be, I would be on board with that kind of a feminist movement.
That there shows you again that it's just leftist ideology, because that would be something to stand up for. Well, what I was just talking about was just like a cultural societal thing. That's nothing's institutionalized about that. So like I said before, there is no institutionalized sexist things here. Milo's right. Women do have it the best in the West. But like you were saying, so this whole turn a blind eye, turn the other cheek to Islamic extremism, women are being, women can't drive a car in Saudi Arabia. You can't be seen walking down the street with a man. You can get your ass beat. In India for being with men. Why not tackle that? Why? That's disgusting. Why not go after that? Because they can't, right? Because Islam's a protected religion. Liberals hate religion, but not Islam. They love it because anything with that they perceive as a minority is the great good.
Well, anything that they perceive as non-Western or anti-American, essentially, is there. That's the one you side with. Yeah. So I just cannot understand people who, we're oppressed here. We're oppressed, and I'm like, no, okay. If you go to the Bay Area, where I'm one of the places that I'm from a lot of places, but you can go, there's a lake called Lake Elizabeth, and every now and again there will be a massive Muslim event there, and you can see this is what oppression looks like. All the women are covered, all the little girls, all the way down to the little 5-year-old girls, have to have their faces covered or they will get in trouble. And I was there at one of these things, and I look at that and I'm like, I am not oppressed. I am not oppressed because I can have my face uncovered. I can say and do whatever I want and without getting beaten or whatever. So, I mean, you don't have to go far. You really don't even have to leave the United States to see what it actually looks like. I mean, I don't know if they're allowed to drive cars here, but as part of the religion here, I mean. But certainly
and it's not even just the religion, it's like the cultural aspect. So sure, knock yourself out if you want women to, be in a burqa, cool. But honor killings, that's disgusting. A girl's raped and she gets beaten for it, or you know what I mean, like that. Yeah, that is just totally absurd, unacceptable. And we, again, feminists turn the other cheek because they don't care. They really don't care about women. They don't. Like I said, they actively take out the most damaging position and they take it for women. And so they don't care. They're not going to tackle what you just talked about.
I think I even saw it was like if a woman is raped, there have to be 3 male witnesses in order to prove that the rape even happened.
Oh yeah.
I mean, she can't even testify. She's got to have 3 men testify on her behalf.
Yeah.
That's under Sharia law, and so that's just insanity.
Yeah.
So
female genital mutilation, all of that.
Mm-hmm. It might even. This is just being said tongue in cheek, but with all the false rape allegations, maybe we need to bring that back.
Oh man, this head's just exploded. You said that. Oh, that's hilarious. That's so great.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. There you have it.
Yeah.
So
women shouldn't be allowed to vote.
I know. Well, she actually made a decent case for that.
I'm kind of on board with it, honestly.
Yeah.
I can still write and stuff, but
exactly.
Sometimes I just feel it's so unbelievable. Just looking at the way you vote, I'm like, come on, girls, pull it together. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And in California, it doesn't really matter. If you're a conservative, it doesn't matter how you vote. It really doesn't. So
yeah, I'm from New York. I understand.
Yeah, I will give up my right to vote in California if it means that women do not vote.
Right.
We might actually have a chance.
But it really does. They vote the wrong way. We vote the wrong way. I don't understand.
I know. What's wrong with everyone?
I know.
I've converted some of my female friends though, so it's
that's wonderful.
They're coming around. They're coming around.
Yeah.
So,
and there's so many. there's so many things they're lied about too. So it's not. I mean, because people like you and I were obviously actively, political junkies. We like looking into this stuff. This is like what we enjoy. Like if you talk to someone like my sister, she wants to go shopping. She doesn't care what the heck I'm talking about. I'm boring. So when you don't want to, and like, right, but that's totally fine. Not everyone's like us. So, so that's why the media is so important. I know because, Ben, like my boss, he's pretty obsessed with like taking on the media because of that reason, because they push our culture and that pushes our politics. So that's why like these lies, like the gender pay gap and all this victimhood that they peddle for women is really important in the media that needs to be stopped. That's kind of why I like what I do. Expose them.
Yeah. Okay, so the gender pay gap, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. This is kind of obscure phrase that is thrown around. Oh yes, women don't make like 77 cents for every dollar a man makes, and it's horrible, and it's this oppressive thing. Jennifer Lawrence running around with her diamonds and jewels all over her dresses. I'm not paid enough money. I don't know what's wrong with this. There's a patriarchy. So explain to us what exactly the gender pay gap is and why it is a myth.
Yeah, well, actually, that's funny that Jennifer Lawrence, she was the one who kind of came out and made this huge to do about it. That was actually proven as a myth. So if you were to take her earnings for that movie, I forget what movie, American Hustle, I think it was. Take her earnings in the day she worked, she made more than her male co-stars. So she's a moron. But anyhow, people already know that. But the gender pay gap, you actually debunked this, so you know this, just as I know this, that it's completely false. It's a total lie, total lie. So basically they just take a wide blanket, they just take all this data of earned salaries, earned incomes, and they just, divide it up. They don't take into account women taking time off. They don't take into account again, like what you generate. So even if this is like a small example, so if you look at a female athlete versus a male athlete, obviously a female athlete is going to be paid more because they generate less. It's absurd to think that they would get paid the same when they generate a fraction of what a male does. So all that stuff, it's just all, that's all in there. They don't take account into anything else, and then they'll just come up with this bogus number. It's obviously completely wrong. If you look at there's even some data showing that higher up on the scale, women get paid more than men. So it's totally bogus. But women obviously have to have children, men don't. So that takes into account into their earned salary. So it's a total lie. Every single economist has debunked it and said it's a complete lie, but it just won't die. Feminists push it because again, they have nothing else to push. So they will push this until, I don't know. I mean, they get proven wrong every day. I don't understand how they can still play with it. Media just, they don't care. So
it's almost like, it's kind of indicative of the way the left works. They love the little sound bites. So gender pay gap, just throw that out there. Most people don't even know what it is or what in the world is somebody talking about. And so they're just like, oh, okay. And then, move on and don't even take time to debunk it. But, it's an easy thing to just throw out. Well, the sexes make different. I mean, women make less than men. I mean, it's just, it's completely bogus, but it's so easy to just throw those words out.
Right.
Right.
It would be, right, your ass would be taken to court if I had the exact same job as a man and I got paid less because I was a female. You would get sued. Like, that just doesn't happen. It's so absurd. If anything, I'm sure employers are scared of this, and they'll definitely promote. Yeah. There's this whole, you have to have diversity, so you might. Yeah. I mean, even if I look at my own job, I would be a moron to say that being a woman has not helped me. I mean, obviously, because I write for the Daily Wire, I would be completely wrong to say that it didn't help me get the job. I mean, it really did. I mean, diversity is a good thing, right? I can talk about certain things that other people can't. It definitely helped me get the job. So it's not oppressive. It's a good thing. It's accept that you can be equal and be different, but we can't have a difference.
I also it really frustrates me whenever Milo talks about this, and I'm going to reference Milo a lot because I'm mad in love with him.
Yeah.
Whenever he talks about this, he always gets cut off right before he explains the whole difference between wages and earnings thing. And that's the part that fascinated me the most, because everybody says, well, so-and-so makes more money. Well, if they worked more hours, then of course they're going to make more money. So that's the thing that ticks me off the most, really, is
right.
My coworker.
Yeah, exactly. The wages are going to be the same, if not in some cases, females will get more. Earnings, again, you're going to take off 10 years to raise your kids. Obviously, you're earning, or you don't work long hours, because they've seen this, right? Women work less hours. They're not going to stay extra long, because they have different priorities, right?
Right.
I mean, even if you're not married, it shows that women are going to take less hours. They're not going to go that extra mile. They're not as, I'm not saying they're not as driven, but they just don't put in those hours that men will or do.
Right.
So they'll obviously come away with more earnings, right? Doesn't mean that I got jacked, screwed over. No, I work less.
Yeah. My coworker and I are both females, but my coworker works twice as many hours as I do. And so, of course, I make less. And if my coworker was a male, it wouldn't be any. I should protest. My goodness, I put in just as much work for half the amount of time. I mean, what's going on? So
I know, right? I know.
It's so easy to distort, something that's really simply explained, but it's always more beneficial to exploit these things when it comes to the left. So this next question, my sister really wanted answered. So she wants to know why feminists dye their hair blue. Is there some kind of almost like a gang sign type of thing going on with the blue hair? Or
it's either like hot pink or blue. They like they kind of resemble like trolls. Remember those troll dolls?
Yeah.
So they like look at those colors and they really like them. They're really into hair dye. They like to dye they dye their armpit hair as well, because patriarchy can't make them shave their armpits, Kelly. So they grow them out because screw you, patriarchy. And then they put glitter. That was a big fad. Hair dye, put all over their hair. I mean, it hurts the patriarchy when feminists. It's a real big FU when they dye their hair pink and blue.
Yeah, it really
is. Their whole lives.
Yeah.
No one wants to touch them.
I think, I tweeted that in the why I don't have a Valentine hashtag. Well, maybe it's because you dyed your armpit hair blue, you're overweight, and you hate men. Why do you think you're saying, I hate men, but I don't know why I'm still single? What's wrong here?
They're helpless.
That was kind of my explanation to her. It's a gang sign. It's the feminist gang sign. They're going to be running up and down the streets of LA with blue and pink hair. And it's the two different gangs. There's the blue hair feminists and the pink haired feminists, and you don't cross the street over into the other side of the gang territory in this feminist.
That's how you can see your allies. Right. That's how you can pick out your allies. Like, oh, there's another feminist freak, right? She has blue hair. So that's how we pick out our allies. Cool.
There you have it. Yeah. Okay, so obviously a big proponent of feminism is our beloved, nasty, wicked witch of the East, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Oh, hell. My girl.
I want you to explain to the viewers that might be watching that think, hey, Hillary, she's a woman. She's going to fight for women's rights. I want you to explain to our audience whether Hillary really does fight for the rights and well-being of women or not.
No. Well, Hillary, the fun thing about Hillary is that she has no principles whatsoever. So whatever's, most politically gainful at the time, that's the position she's going to take. So again, she was, against gay marriage. Now she's all for it. I mean, she has no principles whatsoever. She really does not care. Like, again, we see that, she was trying to run her campaign on gender because she happens to be a woman, I guess. So she was running it on gender, and then that kind of backfired because she had those feminist icons basically call women stupid, or they're going to go to hell if they don't vote for her. That kind of backfired. So now she's like grasping to the black vote. So we see her, morphing into a cop-hating, bee. So she has no principles whatsoever. She doesn't care about women. She does not care. But again, this is the same. Yes. This is the same woman who, so her husband, right? Probably the most sexist, disgusting pig we've ever had in the office. Who has allegedly raped women, sexually assaulted women. Because she cared so much about her political career, she actively helped to threaten and silence these women, so this would not get out, and her political career would keep propelling forward. So she had actively sought out women who were sexually assaulted and raped by her husband, and there are tons of documentation. I mean, again, it's all alleged, but there are tons of people who have come out and said that she threatened me. I have insane stories where she basically grab someone's hand and threaten them, and I mean she will not. She's actively looking to find abused women and silence them. So if that doesn't speak to someone who's not for women, I don't know what it is. It's the same woman, of course, so that every single person who yells, that they were sexually abused or raped needs to be heard and believed. But she's over there silencing them. So that's a little. You can't be for women's rights when you're like that. And then also she's huge on abortion. Huge. She has no limits. All those little girls who are slaughtered, I don't think you can actually call that women's rights. She has no limitation on it. You can kill a baby up to the minute it's born, as long as it's inside the womb. That's totally fine. Again, as we know, abortion is terrible for women. You see a lot of depression after the fact. You see a lot of physical damage. You see women who can't have children after. I have friends who are seriously depressed over it. I have had one friend who didn't get an abortion but almost did, and she still deals with it every day. Like she feels sick to her stomach. So that's obviously not a good position for women at all. But she's getting $20 million added to her campaign from Cecile Richards and Planned Parenthood. So again, if it helps her political career and expedites that, then she's all for it. And again, there's nothing there that would actively help women. She's pretty much the anti-feminist.
Yeah. Especially with that nasty face and the horrible laugh, the cackle. I mean, I have nightmares about that woman.
The laugh is rough. Her pantsuit game is tight, but the laugh is rough.
Oh, she's just horrible. I mean, it's just awful. But I think that also, obviously, feminists don't care about men. But one thing that's never really talked about is how abortion affects men. And I actually, I'm not going to say names, obviously, but a personal friend of mine who is probably in his late 50s by now said that he paid somebody to have an abortion, and he still cannot sleep at night over that. He feels like he's destroyed emotionally. He's just destroyed. And this was what, 40 years ago, and he still can't sleep over it.
Yeah.
So,
and feminists love to put a muzzle on men who speak out against abortion for some reason, because they don't have a vagina. They can't have an opinion on people killing babies. Yeah,
it's not like it was half their kid or anything. I mean, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just kind of an eye opener to me. Obviously, I had thought about it before. What does it do to a man? But nobody ever talks about it, and to have him open up like that and say, "Yeah, it destroyed me. It destroyed her." I still cannot sleep at night over this. It's really.
Yeah. And there's also the thing where, and like they'll have, so again, they push this notion that it's your body, right? You can kill off the baby. You don't even tell the dad. So women really do this. I mean, this is again anecdotal, but I have a friend who went through with it, and her boyfriend at the time ended up finding out, and he hates her. I mean, he can't even look at her, and he had no say in his child's murder. It's disgusting. So they push that too, that they don't even. He has no right to even know about it, right? It's not. For some reason, a child is their body. Okay, so it's unbelievable.
Yeah. All right, so that was pretty much the end of all my questions, and Aaron's not here quite yet, so we can just keep talking until he gets here.
So Aaron's gonna come on and talk about.
He's gonna talk about.
Right?
We were gonna talk about primaries, what the outlook is for South Carolina. Tonight's the big debate. I'm gonna be definitely tweeting live, as I love to do.
Oh yeah, it's so fun. I mean,
it is.
It's Saturday. which is not fun,
Yeah.
but
I love it better when they're on like Tuesdays or Thursdays or something. Then I rush home from work. Okay, I gotta get set up. It's time for the debate. It's something to look forward to during the week. But on a Saturday, it's like, I really would rather watch Thor. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you think of New Hampshire?
I was really, actually, I'm very surprised that Ted Cruz placed third. I was hoping he would place third, but, you know, it was kind of, first they were like, oh, yeah, Jeb's going to get third. It's going to be all right. And so I turned off the computer. I'm like, I can't watch this. It's too much for me. My heart can't handle it. I'm going to have a heart attack before I'm 25. And then it's like 73%. Oh, Ted Cruz is in the lead by like 1,000 points. Oh, my goodness. And so I start running around and screaming.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, he did really well. He did.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Trump won every demographic though, which is crazy.
Yeah, but it was
So
it was a much farther left state, so
yeah.
I wasn't really expecting Ted Cruz to get second or first, but third was fantastic. I know I wasn't the only one that thought he wasn't going to do well.
Yeah, no, I didn't think he would place third, so that was good, especially in New Hampshire, you know. But
yeah,
that's a good sign. You can place third in New Hampshire.
Very, very excellent. Okay, Aaron says he's coming, but
I hope Aaron.
I know. Where are you? I told him. No, really, I told him noon, but
it's okay.
probably out partying. He's out partying or something, getting drunk and slurring his words again. What's wrong with him?
Yeah, becoming a Donald Trump fan.
I know, it's just.
Do you ever think you'd become a Donald Trump fan? Do you ever think it'll happen?
I mean, if he's the nominee, I'm gonna have to become a Donald Trump fan.
Yeah.
But
you would like actively advocate for him, like you would.
Oh, I would. Yeah, because I want somebody other than Hillary. But you know, I advocated for Romney all through 2012, and I got slapped in the face on the day after the election. I cried that night because I had been campaigning and doing stuff, and I didn't have nearly as many Twitter followers, but I still had quite a few in 2012, and I was pushing Ryan all the way to the end, and back when Ryan was like half a conservative.
Ryan was totally conservative. Yeah, he was.
Well, yeah, he was. I loved Paul Ryan more than I loved Ben Shapiro at one point. And
whoa.
I know. Don't tell him I said that. That's just like disgusting. But
that's like blasphemy. Knock it off. Aaron.
Hi. Yeah, finally. I had some technical problems going on, but worked it out.
Well, we were trash talking, yeah. So.
Oh, yeah, I could hear. Yeah, all the worst kinds of things about me.
We were telling our followers how whenever I offend you, you go out and get drunk and slur your words and come back.
Is that true, Aaron?
Somewhat.
Somewhat. That's okay.
Oh, good grief. Okay, so as we were talking about, we are going to leave the discussion, talk about the primaries and what is the state of things since New Hampshire and Trump's big win. So, Aaron, why don't you tell us who's ahead, who's behind, what's the outlook for South Carolina?
Right. Well, there's no question that he was the big winner coming out of New Hampshire. I mean, he outperformed his poll numbers by like 5 points, and he had like spent very little time, very little resources in New Hampshire, had very little ground game to speak of, and had like $40 per vote, and yet he just dominated the state. But that's impressive, especially if we consider the fact that he placed second in Iowa when we also had no ground game, and he spent very little time and resources in that state as well. So the Trump momentum is real, and right now he is the front runner, and he has the momentum going to South Carolina. He was leading in the polls by double digits before New Hampshire, and now after New Hampshire, it's the same sort of deal. He's still leading in the polls by double digits, and there's been like 2 or 3 polls out now that show that. So right now, if the polling trend continues, then he's going to dominate South Carolina thoroughly. But there is a chance that for him to be upset in South Carolina. The one person to do that, of course, is Ted Cruz. His ground game in South Carolina, from what I understand, is just as good, if not better, than what he had in Iowa. And South Carolina does play favorably to Cruz, since it's a very red state, a lot of evangelicals, very conservative. So you would think this would do well for Ted, but yet he's down. And part of that's because South Carolina has an open primary, so that is absolutely to Trump's advantage, because a lot of his coalition involves independents, moderates, and even liberals. So, and even a state like South Carolina, that still works well for him. So if Trump is to be stopped in South Carolina, then he has to be bloodied somehow in tonight's debate. And so we're going into that. What's going to happen in tonight's debate is that we're going to see a number of things happen. For starters, the Jeb has made clear that he's going to go scorched earth against Kasich and Rubio. He's vying very hard for that establishment lane support. So he has to try and take out Kasich and Rubio. Even Kasich this week was like, I'm so disappointed in Jeb for attacking me like this. And he's going to regret it, like come debate night or something like that. So there's going to be like a three-man firing squad between the three of them, and that's going to be pretty hilarious. We should be shouting, fight, 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 as they attack each other in the debate. And Carson, I mean, I keep forgetting Carson's in the race, but he's only there for one reason, and that's to attack Cruz for the supposed dirty tricks that were played against him in Iowa. Now, as all of us here know, there were no dirty tricks, okay? What happened was that CNN peddled an erroneous story and failed to correct it on the air, even though the reporter corrected it on Twitter. And the Cruz campaign, as well as the Huckabee campaign and the Rubio campaign, were all spreading that story. And yet somehow Carson is taking it to Cruz over this. And that's why many of us at the Daily Wire think that Carson's on Trump's payroll at this point. It's the only way that makes sense, that he's still in this race and continues to attack Cruz over this false line of attack. And Carson tonight is his main purpose for being there is just to do that against Cruz. And that's not going to bode well for Cruz. So what Cruz needs to do is, I think his strategy so far in South Carolina, it seems, has been to attack Rubio and Trump. Rubio's not that far behind from Cruz in the polls. And if a week from today, when the South Carolina primary is, if Rubio places second, that doesn't really bode well for Cruz. So he has to try and attack both. Thankfully, Cruz is the smartest guy on the stage and by far the best debater on the stage too. So I think he knows where to attack both of them. He knows their weaknesses. Immigration is obviously Rubio's big weakness, gang of eight. And if Cruz is smart, which we know he is, he should use the gang of eight to attack Trump as well, because there's a piece in Red State this week that said that Trump financed like 5 out of the 8 gang of 8 members, which I can't remember all 5 of them off the top of my head, but they were like McCain, Schumer, Chuck Schumer, and Dick Durbin, but not Rubio. Okay, so the gang of 8 should be a prime opportunity for Cruz to attack Rubio and Trump. And Trump's other big weakness is eminent domain. Now, if people don't understand what eminent domain is, it's the idea that the government can essentially take private property for certain public uses, like building roads, pipelines, and so forth. And under the takings clause of the Fifth Amendment, they have to reimburse you. Now, the problem with Trump's position on this is the fact that, as a casino owner, he tried to kick this woman named Vera Koking off her property so he could expand a limousine parking lot. And even though most Americans don't really understand eminent domain, the fact is that Trump's appeal has been the fact that he supposedly stands with the little guy. But in the case of this eminent domain, he was screwing over the little guy, and that's what Cruz has been hammering home in his ads. And last week's debate, when Jeb went after Donald Trump over the eminent domain thing, that was, I think, Trump's worst moment. I mean, he got booed, even if most of the audience was GOP donors, it was still a bad moment for him. And Jeb did it. I mean, this is Jeb, who's been Trump's punching bag this entire primary. And Jeb, who's awkward and boring, somehow got the biggest strike against Trump. If Jeb can do it, then there is no reason why Cruz can't do it and do it effectively and going for the kill, politically speaking, for Trump in that respect. But it'll be very fun to watch tonight. So, I mean, that's basically the state of things right now.
Okay, so let's see, what do I got here? So who do you think is most likely to win South Carolina at this point? Because you were actually fairly accurate in your assessment last time,
Yeah.
and I've decided never to doubt Aaron again. So
yeah, as Roger would say, don't doubt me.
Exactly.
It depends. It comes down to tonight's debate. If Trump isn't bloody too much, then he'll win. But if he is, then I could see either Cruz or maybe even Rubio winning. Rubio is definitely a long shot at this point, but if either one of them comes out of the debate looking very strong, then it could happen. Because you remember in 2012, Romney was winning South Carolina pretty thoroughly until that CNN debate happened. Because remember, at that time, there was a story being peddled by liberal media that Newt Gingrich's second wife told ABC that Newt had approached her at one point and asked for an open marriage. And so in that debate, CNN's John King leads off by asking Newt about that story. And Newt takes the opportunity to just tear into John King, tear into CNN, tear into liberal media, gets a standing ovation. He dominates. Wins South Carolina 35%, mostly on the backs of very conservative and evangelical votes, which, by the way, are the votes Cruz needs and should be able to get, theoretically, in order to win South Carolina. So Cruz needs a moment like that. And the one way I can see this happening is, I mean, right now the media is still kind of obsessing over this story about the porn star that started one of his ads. So I'm kind of hoping that CBS leads off by asking Cruz about that porn star in his ad that he took down, and then he used the opportunity to just like smack him out of the park. So it doesn't have to be that. It could be going after Trump over eminent domain or just explaining his stance on abortion very well. But he needs a moment like that if he's going to win. Otherwise, Trump will win South Carolina. And then at that point, maybe he has so much momentum to be stopped. Or there's the idea of a broker convention, too, which Ben talked about this week on Megyn Kelly. And basically, a broker convention, because most people don't know what that is, in order to win a nomination, you need 1,237 delegates. And if nobody has that many going into the Republican convention in July, then we have what's called a broker convention, which is where it's the idea of basically it becomes a free-for-all with delegates. Each candidate has to try and win delegates over to their side. Now the problem, the problem's twofold. For one, you need to win 8 primaries or caucuses in order to even qualify for this. So that could mean that obviously Kasich wouldn't really be able to participate in that. Rubio might not either if he's out of the race before then. And so. But the other problem is the fact that the main people who have sway over the delegates are the party leaders. And, of course, the party leaders all hate Cruz. So it's to Cruz's detriment if we should broker convention. And my main view of broker convention is that even though there's that 8-state rule, a week before the convention, like the Republican leaders get together and they can decide whether or not they want to change the rules, add rules, and so forth. So they could, in theory, change that rule, and in that case, they can nominate anybody, literally anybody, if they so chose. And my fear is that if it's broker convention and it's between like Trump and Cruz, then they'll call for Romney to come in, and they'll give delegates to him, and then he's our nominee in 20. I mean, I know it sounds a little far-fetched, but the establishment still likes Romney. I mean, I remember as far back as last year, if not a little bit before that, how people who were leaning more on the establishment side were calling for Romney to come back and run again. And obviously he didn't, but if it's a Trump and Cruz race going to broker convention, then they might try and call for him, and he might reluctantly do it and kind of be like their so-called white knight coming in to save the day. In which case, then we lose because he's a weak candidate. I mean, he lost in 2012 because he's a weak candidate against Obama, who for all intents and purposes should have been a sitting duck. I mean, he had an incredibly weak record, so much low-hanging fruit there that Romney did not call him out on. And it would be the same thing all over again with Hillary.
I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and if you haven't, then there's a line where there's this really upstanding politician that's doing all kinds of underhanded things, and they call him the Silver Knight. And then there's a really large crony capitalist in the background. And there's a line in the movie where my favorite actress of all time is in this movie. She says, "The Silver Knight will fall off of his horse and Puss will jump out of his boots." And I was watching the debate last week, and I was like, Rubio is that Silver Knight falling off his horse, and Chris Christie is Puss jumping out of his boots, and it was just so funny. I mean, I just died. You got to go watch the movie, and it'll be really
fun. I guess I will.
I will.
But yeah, I mean, Rubio's not out of it, but like it's definitely a long haul for him because his campaign's whole strategy was it's just the so-called 3-2-1 strategy, which is third place in Iowa, second place in New Hampshire, first place in South Carolina. He got the third place in Iowa down, but second place in New Hampshire he missed by a long shot. He placed in fifth place behind Jeb, behind Cruz, behind Kasich. So I mean, already his strategy has been blown up. Because of that moment, I mean, people said after that debate that many people switched their votes from Rubio to Kasich or Trump because of that moment, and it's a little unfortunate in the sense that I mean, Rubio was making a good point that Obama does know what he's doing. He is trying to spread the country, and it's a good line of attack because the attack that Obama's just incompetent, which is what Jeb and Kasich and Christie were peddling, and Trump too. Yeah, it's not really as effective because the left always paints us as like we're evil, like we're Darth Vader, and saying that we're intentionally trying to screw over minorities, screw over women, and so forth. Meanwhile, we're saying, oh, they're nice people, but they're just over their head. They're incompetent. It doesn't sell well, and so for Rubio to point out, Rubio and Cruz also, like he's the other one saying that, to point out that Obama is destroying the country, that he does have bad intentions. That is an effective line of attack, and it's true. Unfortunately, what happened was that Christie rattled Rubio, and Rubio just ended up proving his point by repeating that line 4 times. Now, that's troubling for a couple of reasons. For starters, Christie all week had been saying he was going to attack Rubio that way. Rubio should have been prepared for that, had a good line of attack ready for it, but he didn't. And instead, he got rattled, proved his point. The other thing is that it illustrates Rubio's weakness as a candidate, and that is that Rubio's not a fighter. He's a people pleaser. By nature, he's a people pleaser. He wants to be liked. He wants people to like him. He's not comfortable going out and taking it to other candidates. And that's why they say he hasn't really fought for anything outside of the Gang of Eight. And even that, like, most of his work with that was to go on conservative talk radio and try and sell it. And failed at it because he lied about it. Most of the really heavy lifting, dirty work he left to like Schumer and McCain. So and so that makes you worry that if he's nominated, which is unlikely at this point, but if he is, then because he's not that good of a fighter, he won't be able to take the fight all to Hillary Clinton.
Eric, can I ask you something?
Sure.
Yeah. So because you don't think he's a fighter, who do you think has a better shot, Trump or Rubio? If they're the nominee.
I don't. That's a good question. They both have serious weaknesses in the general election, so I think there's a good chance either one of them could lose. I would maybe give the edge to Rubio only because conservatives find him acceptable, and I don't think conservatives find Trump nearly as acceptable, and Trump has lower favorables than Rubio does. So I think Rubio gets a slight edge, but I think they both have general election problems against Hillary.
I know this is a horrible thing to say, but I think if Rubio's the nominee, we lose, just like we did with
He might because as J. Christian Adams wrote in a piece in PJ Media last week, right now the big issue in this election is immigration. And unfortunately, that's like the one issue Rubio has no credibility on. And so it would be like essentially nominating Romney in 2012 and we lose the Obamacare issue, which 50% of Americans agree with us on. I mean, literally anybody could have been better than Romney because he was the only one who was the godfather of Obamacare, basically, and yet we nominated him. And it would be similar with Rubio or with Jeb or whoever.
He's the one who sponsored that bill of the Gang of Eight. And for me, that's the number one issue is immigration because having grown up in California my entire life, having never had an opportunity to have any kind of conservative leadership, real conservative leadership. Arnold Schwarzenegger was no Republican.
Oh God, yeah, gave us
nonsense, foolish ideology. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that we've ever come back ever since the 1986 amnesty, and that's why I've gotten yelled at for saying this. But if it came down to Trump versus Rubio, I would vote for Trump. Because I at least think that Trump has a chance of doing something about immigration, or at least not granting amnesty, because Rubio has said continually, I just need to prove to the American people that I'm going to secure the border and then I can give them amnesty. No, we don't ever want amnesty. We had amnesty, and the rest of the country is going to go the way of California if we have amnesty again. So that's why it's my #1 issue. And of course, I'm all for Cruz. I'm going to say it over and over again. Vote for Cruz. Anybody who's still watching this live stream, vote for Cruz. But if it came to Trump versus Rubio, I would definitely go Trump because
Anna would argue that Trump has a better shot because, just like Aaron said, he's more of a fighter. He goes over the media's head, and as you saw with Rubio, he glitches. Right? He wasn't ready for it. He can't handle his attacks. Yeah. But that's us. Yeah.
Right.
Anybody who's been a public speaker has had that moment happen. But that's. Yeah. I mean, I hate. I shouldn't say I hate, but I really dislike Rubio. But I felt really bad for him because I've been there when you're giving a college lecture or whatever, and you're up there and you forget what you were going to say, and you just start repeating things, or you draw a blank or whatever it is. So I kind of felt bad for him in that instance, but it was really bad. I know Ben always talks about optics. That was horrible optics right there.
Yeah.
Silver Knight fell off of his horse.
Right. Well, and yeah, I think a lot of conservatives who would probably agree with you on that immigration is the key issue, and that's why they prefer Trump to Rubio. I thought about this a little bit, and even though Rubio's bad in immigration, Trump has not good in immigration either, really. You think about it, like, I remember right after 2012, Trump hit Romney for being too hard on immigration and basically called for amnesty. And then in 2013, he had a tweet out where he basically the same position as Rubio did, which is secure the border and then amnesty, and now he's supposedly Mr. Hardliner on the issue. The other thing that I think is almost more important than immigration has been talked about a lot is the Supreme Court, because this next presidency is so important with the Supreme Court because you can have as many as 4 vacancies on the court, and right now we have 4 dyed-in-the-wool judicial activists on the court. Now, people don't understand this. There's two schools of thought when it comes to Supreme Court justices. There's a judicial activist school of thought. And then there's the originalist school of thought. The activist school of thought is that the Constitution is a loose, living, breathing document that's more like guidelines than actual rules that can be changed on a whim. Which I can see why people might see the allure in that, but it really makes no sense when you think about it, because the Constitution is basically a contract that the people have made with the government, right? I mean, do people, like, in office situations, with contracts, for instance, do people consider contracts to be living documents? Imagine if we treated all documents that way. I mean, you have so much anarchy and chaos. Yeah. And some of the most, like, unconscionable, inhumane Supreme Court cases have been as a result of judicial activism. For instance, Dred Scott. Dred Scott, as you probably remember from history class, that was the one where the court ruled that Dred Scott was indeed property. He was a slave, and that was one of the key cases that led to the Civil War. And that was an activist case because under the letter of the law, he was, I think, in Missouri or in Kansas. I think it was in Kansas, which was north of the Mason-Dixon line. So under the letter of the law, he should have been a free man, but Roger Taney destroyed the Constitution to achieve his ideological ends of being in favor of slavery. And another unconscionable case, Plessy versus Ferguson, separate but equal. And that case was involving train rides and how blacks and whites had to be in separate cars. And that's where Oliver Wendell Holmes came up with the absurd notion that separate but equal is in the Constitution when it's not. Equality is in the 14th Amendment, but nothing about it being separate. And that case led to, like, years of segregation. And then the other case that a lot of people forget is Korematsu v. U.S. That was the case that basically said it was okay for FDR to round up Japanese Americans and put them in internment camps. And they did so by grossly destroying the Fifth Amendment. Actually, excuse me, they didn't even talk about the Fifth Amendment at all. They just said it was a wartime power, which isn't true at all. The Fifth Amendment clearly calls for due process. I mean, what could be a bigger violation of due process than rounding up Japanese Americans and putting them in internment camps? And yet the Supreme Court rubber-stamped that case, and of course there's Roe v. Wade, also huge activist case. But my point is the fact that activist cases for years have been are the most inhumane and unconscionable cases that end up setting us back as a country for years because they're so hard to overturn. And because you have potentially four vacancies coming up, you could, in theory, have a court that could rubber stamp anything a left-wing president wants, or if you have a conservative president, God willing, the activist court could strike down any reforms that the conservative president tries to put across. So that is, and we are one activist away from that happening on the court. So that's why I think
we're already there, actually.
we're close. We're close. I mean,
we're basically there with with the Obamacare rulings. And
right. But at least Anthony Kennedy and John Roberts, they're mush, and they don't always side with us, but they do side with us sometimes. In the case of the next president, if you have four actress nominees, then there's no chance of them ever siding with us. Yeah. And that, I think, is almost a bigger danger than immigration is. And Trump has said that one of his sister, I think, is a judge, and she's a radical far-left pro-abortion judge. And he said he would nominate her to the Supreme Court. And so that's where I think I would prefer Rubio, because I think Rubio would have better nominees than Trump would.
Which wouldn't really matter if he passes amnesty. But
that's true. Yeah, I mean, that's also true. So
we've got to get Cruz in there. That's my point.
Yeah, we do. He has a long road ahead of him, but it can be done.
Yeah, I really love his ads. I wanted to hear what you guys thought. I don't know if you heard. I think it was yesterday or the day before. Rush had a caller that said, I think it was yesterday, that said that he thought the ad with the soft porn star or whatever.
The softcore porn, yeah.
Yeah, by pulling that just makes everybody want to go watch the ad. So, I mean, even if it was intentional, now everybody is Googling that ad. So,
that's right. And Ben Shapiro actually made a similar point. That was the featured story on the Daily Wire for a while, was him making that exact same point. So I don't know why that they pulled that ad. I mean, I agree that they shouldn't pull the ad. I don't know if one of Cruz's donors complained about it. I don't know if they thought that a porn actress starring in an ad would have hurt him to South Carolina. I don't know. I personally love the ad. I thought it was pretty funny and a really good dig at Rubio. I really love the humor of the Cruz campaign because they're so good at hammering home a point in a humorous way. One of the big reasons why Reagan was such a popular president and presidential candidate too was because of his use of humor, used to illustrate his points very well. And Cruz and his campaign are recognized in that aspect. I mean, they're very good using humor. To prove their point. Yes, me too. I love the Office Space. I mean, I've never even seen Office Space, but I still love the ad.
I've seen the movie, and so when Rush was, I didn't even know about the ad until Rush was talking about it yesterday, and then I was like, he said something. I don't know if you guys have seen Office Space. And I'm like, I've seen Office Space, and the part where the guys are wrecking the fax machine. Oh my gosh, that's the funniest part of the whole movie. And
right, so yeah, and it was Hillary And it was Hillary wrecking it too. So good. And it's an eminent domain ad against Trump. He's had two this week. But the one where it's like a little kids playing with action figures, like rolling over the dollhouse, that was also very clever. And even earlier this week too, Cruz's spokesman, Greg Tyler, was on CNN debating Jeff Lord, who's one of my favorite writers, by the way, a big Trump supporter. And Greg Tyler was like, Trump is a Seinfeld candidacy. It's a candidacy about nothing. And I thought that's so great because it's so true. Because I think that Trump just goes on for his speeches. He just says nothing most of the time. He's just cracking jokes every now and then, saying we're going to build a wall and it's going to be great, and the crowd goes wild and stuff. I think Cruz and his campaign does a very good job using humor to illustrate their point, and I think that's to his benefit. It makes him a very attractive candidate. So it's going to be all about if you can use that to effectively attack Trump in the debate tonight.
I think that goes back to something Amanda and I were talking about with the feminist discussion.
Right. How
the left loves the sound bites. They love to just, like we were saying, the gender pay gap. You can just throw those lines out there. Nobody knows what it means, but it sounds, halfway intelligent apparently. And so Trump, he's the king of the sound bites. He can just throw out.
That's right.
We're going to build a wall. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And so, that's one of my problems with Trump is he's so superficial, and you're never sure if he actually believes half this stuff. Especially, Ben's breakdown of Trump's so-called conversion on abortion, he said, would you, he said he changed to pro-life because a friend of his was going to get an abortion and she didn't. Now the kid is a rock star. And they asked him, well, if the kid was a brat, would you have still changed to pro-life? He told him, no, I probably wouldn't have. And so it's like, yeah, that's a real...
I think he was kidding. It's a sick joke, but I think he was kidding.
Yeah,
it
doesn't sound pro-life to say that,
No.
whether it was a joke or not. I know maybe I take these things too seriously, but I think that nobody takes them seriously enough.
I mean, life is a very important issue, and I think one of the things that really like pissed me off about the Republican Congress this past summer was the fact that they didn't really even try to defund Planned Parenthood, which, of course, is the organization that dismembered baby parts and sold them out in the open market. If they can't even stand up to that, then what's the point of having a Republican Party? I mean, seriously, what's the point if they're not going to stand up for fundamental issues such as life? And the other thing, going back to Trump, is the fact that I don't know if you saw Ben's piece this week where he basically said that Trump and Bernie aren't that different. And it's actually really concerning when you break it down and how similar they actually are. Because you think about it, the Trump and Bernie agree on single payer, they agree on trade, they agree on cutting military spending, and even on immigration they're not that far apart because Bernie has said that increased immigration drives down wages, which is actually true, and that's good for him for coming to that conclusion. But the fact is that they are disturbingly similar on a lot of very key and important issues. And even in New Hampshire, Trump was railing against big oil companies, railing against insurance companies. He even advocated for the government to negotiate drug prices. You never hear that at a Republican rally. You just don't. Only Democrats talk about that. And so, in this week, Ben had a story. We talked about, like, the mask is off. Trump blames conservatives. He had a tweet where he blamed the establishment and conservatives for failures to get stuff done in Washington, D.C. And the fact that he blamed conservatives for that, well, it's not really conservatives' fault. It's the establishment's fault for turning their back on conservatives. But because Trump blamed them, it goes to show that, yeah, he can't be trusted. He's not a conservative. As Rush said, he's not an ideological candidate. He's just whatever he wants to be in order to empower himself. And so, if he does become president, it's kind of like, who knows what he'll do. Yeah, I really don't know what he's going to do as president, and that's a little scary.
Yeah, I've been trying to make this argument because there's a lot of people that I know that like Trump, and I say, well, Cruz is actually the conservative guy, and they're like, well, what? Why? Trump sounds conservative. He's going to secure the border, and I say, well, yeah, he might secure the border, but then again, he might wake up on election or the day after the election and say, oh, you know what? Maybe I like the free labor, or maybe I do. Maybe I want to do this, or maybe I want to do that. I mean, he's just not proven himself to be consistent on things, and that's my main concern with Trump.
Exactly. You should probably ask your friends or Trump supporters, like, what credibility does he have? I mean, where has he ever shown that he can actually stand up for what's right, and advance the cause in Washington? Because he hasn't really, and Cruz has, of course, because he was advocating for building a wall long before Trump ever did. Just go back to 2011 and 2012 when he was running for the Senate in Texas. I mean, he typically said, he would build a wall if that's what it came to. Cruz is the original purveyor of building a wall, not Trump. Trump just popularized it. And Cruz fought against and helped kill the Gang of Eight bill in Washington. Where was Trump? He financed 5 to 8 people that were promoting it. So Cruz's immigration plan is far to the right of Trump, far to the right of Trump's plan, because as he highlights in debates, Trump is a big proponent of what's known as touchback, which is he takes the illegals and then deports them, puts them back on their home soil, and then brings them back. I mean, my friend Matt Vespa at Town Hall said at the time, it's like, Mr. Trump, this isn't Sim City, okay? It doesn't work like that. And Cruz, of course, has said, secure the border, enforce the law, don't let people overstay their visas, put in a biometric entry-exit tracking system, put a 180-day pause on H-1B visas and the fraud, and enforce the law. And I think, given his record on this issue, he's the one we can trust in immigration. I mean, yeah, he's not perfect on the issue. He did advocate for quadrupling H-1B visas, okay, but he has righted himself, and I think he's the only candidate in the field that we can trust on this fundamentally important issue of immigration.
So what do you guys think are is going to happen, I want to bring Amanda in here too. What are you guys' predictions, I should say, for tonight during the debate? Who do you think is going to come out ahead?
Well, I mean, no matter what Trump does, I don't think it's going to affect him too much, to be honest. I don't think any of his debate performances have been particularly good at all, but again, it doesn't hurt him. I don't think he's gonna take a big blow. I just don't see it happening. I mean, even when he got hit with eminent domain, like Aaron was saying, he received boos. I mean, again, that could be. Again, he made that point about, there was donors in there. So again, he kind of turned it into a positive. So I don't see him getting hurt that much. So again, I think that's going to kind of translate, and I think he's going to take South Carolina. I mean, he had a really big win in New Hampshire. Like I said, he won every single demographic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough.
Right. I would caution New Hampshire's demographics play well to him though, because New Hampshire is the least state in the country. It's also the fifth most liberal state voting in the Republican primary, and so demographics it was an open primary too, so it absolutely was in his favor to win that state. I agree. I agree with you that most of his big points haven't been great, but he has come out of them unscathed, largely because the other candidates are attacking each other more often than they're attacking him. But I wish that the candidates would go 6-on-1 against Trump. Even though he'll play the victim card, I mean, typically 6-on-1, or I guess in this case it'd be 5-on-1 because there's 6 candidates left. But when you have to make people getting up on you, it normally doesn't go over well. So it's really incumbent upon Cruz and Rubio too, who knows what's good for him, to really kind of to really go after Trump on where it hurts, like eminent domain and his other liberal stances on issues, and wait for Trump to sort of like implode on his own. And Cruz can kind of get away with it because he is the most conservative in the race, and so I don't think his line of attack of most people here are donors, that's not going to work because they don't, if it's against Cruz, because those donors don't support Cruz either. Yeah. And Cruz has a better track record on the issue anyway. And Cruz is a better debater, and of course Cruz made Trump look bad on the whole birther issue in the debate back in January. So Cruz can handle Trump, I think.
Trump smacked him with the New York Valley thing. He finds a way. He's such a media suckhole that he's going to find a way to get out of anything. He's done it thus far. I don't see it changing.
Your values thing, yeah, he got him on that.
Yeah.
So it's really up to Cruz to make sure to basically be ready for whatever Trump throws at him, and really just hit him where it hurts, and then you just hope that Rubio can follow soon and does the same thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's hard to predict what will happen exactly. I just know that again, Jeb will go after Kasich and Rubio. There'll be a 3-man firing squad against each other. Carson will attack Cruz. Cruz and Trump will go at it. Rubio will go after Cruz to an extent. So it just kind of see like who gets bullied the most out of the whole thing. Maybe it's Trump, maybe it's Cruz. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that.
I just really want Cruz to win. That's the bottom line.
Well, we all do. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I'll just make my life so much easier. Yeah. All right. So we didn't get too many comments on this one. But I did want to give a couple of shout-outs. Thank you, Harry, for watching every single one of these. You're awesome, and I may think about bringing you on one of these days if we can get the time zones worked out. So, and then I wanted to give a shout-out to I wanted to give a shout-out to @A Heart for God because you asked me for a shout-out. You can go follow him. He's already got 125,000 followers.
Is that some nepotism, Kelly?
That is me shouting out my dad on the live stream. So there you have it. So go follow @A Heart for God. Did you guys want to give any shout outs today?
I forgot to. I know you told me last time. I need to give shout outs.
I know. Give shout outs.
Well, let's give a shout out to Proud Texan @Become a Texan. That guy's just awesome. Has some funny jets. Give him a shout out.
Yeah, I like that. Is that a guy or a girl? I never know.
I don't know. It's like the Heimlich cone, right? It's like we don't know.
Yeah.
Like the gender of these people. It could be anybody.
Seriously, just like write it. I need to know what your preferred pronouns are, you people. Please, I'm gonna get fined. I mean, it's just terrible. Yeah, shout out to Hamish Khan because he is
Oh, it's a he?
followers. I'm pretty sure that guy's a he.
I'm sure too.
Pretty sure, yeah.
Aaron
Just-
says
just wait.
Aaron knows everything, so
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
yeah. But even without Aaron, I'm pretty sure that's a guy. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just no way that's not a guy. Any more shout outs?
Shout out to my little brother Alec Bandler to turn 21 earlier this month.
Oh,
Pretty awesome. Good for you, buddy.
Happy birthday to Aaron's brother.
Alec.
Oh, my sister turned 17 next weekend, so there you have it.
Oh, hold on.
All
Proud Texan says he's a guy, so there we go.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Just so we're all clear on this. Thank you very much. Okay, do we have any? Oh, yeah, shout out to Ben Shapiro because I would.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Follow at Ben Shapiro
Yeah.
because I wouldn't have even known about these guys if I hadn't watched him smack down Piers Morgan all those years ago.
Right. Ben employs Amanda and me and all the other writers, so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, huge shout out to Ben. Keep fighting the good fight, man. It's a really an honor to work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. And obviously at Real Daily Wire.
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, follow Real Deal, but follow the other writers too. Josh Jasma at Josh Jazz. Robert Krajcik, follow him. Follow Partis, Partis Select. Follow Michael Casvini at Mike Casvini. Yeah, just give them all a follow. Daily Wire writers are all great people. You know, it's a great website, and we're really coming big now. People are noticing us, getting more views. So, you know, follow us, follow the Daily Wire Twitter handle, read our stories on the site. I mean, they are pretty damn good. So check it out.
I so myself. They're pretty good.
Yes,
Yeah.
so exactly. Yes. All right, so we are going to go off the air right now, but yeah, go follow at Real Daily Wire. They retweet me all the time, so it's just really awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks, Kelly.
Yes.
Yes, thanks again, Kelly.
Thanks for your
That was fun.
Yes, thank you very much. My hair looks amazing today, by the way.
It does. You look fantastic. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Yes, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. We're going to go off the air in the next